is on change. And they say change is the only, there could be something like change in taxes or something, are the only things that are for sure in this life. And especially, we see the changes in the fall too, but in the spring with the emergence of spring, the flowers blooming, the trees blooming, the weather changes, little creepy crawlies start to come out more, things are coming out of hibernation, animals are being born. So spring is a time of great change. And one thing we'd like to bring into this is that a flower creates a bud. It uses all the energy, it pulls up all that energy out of the roots to create a bud so that it can bloom. And that bloom, that moment when the flower opens can be, as people have watched in their gardens, over an hour. Or you may notice your plant and then look back at it and it's in full bloom, or that bud has bloomed. And we can take a lesson from nature in this way. It's not that it's something that happens overnight, but it is something that the plant stores up the energy, the plant collects the nutrients, builds up the structures, so that it can create the bud, and then it is able to bloom. Even though the actual bloom seems to only take a few days. It's just, a short time, and it goes into full bloom. So, and then it's like you hardly recognize the plant. It's shocked, you see it and you're like, wow, that's so beautiful. Maybe if that plant's a weed and it's not that pretty, it sits there all year, and then in your face it has these gorgeous flowers or new growth. So we want to take this into consideration as we start to go through and always experiencing changes. And that's kind of the funny thing about change, is that that's what we know, is that change always happens. It's always been happening. And this is part of also the evolution of who we are as a body, as a being. And to not change is to stagnate, and it's really a sense of complacency and comfort. So this is where we start to get into, with all these changes that are occurring, we may find that we have resistance to some of the changes. They might feel like they're outside of us and we're watching them, and we don't want that. We want it to stay the same, how it's always been. We keep hearing people want to go back to normal. a lot of people don't want to go back to normal. So a lot of people are saying, no, we really need change. Things need to change. Back to normal was not sustainable. And then a lot of people are saying, well, no, we want to go back to normal. So if we sort of not internalize this outward discussion of change, but if we reflect on what that means for us, change often brings about a lot of fear. Fear of the new, fear of the different. Some people fear loss of traditions, or loss of power, loss of control. Like, I got pretty good at controlling that, but now that it's changing, or it could change, I could be losing control. I could lose, it's loss. Again, it's the lack. It's the lack consciousness. And losing traditions, People may say, like a lot of cultures are working on maintaining the language, the old languages. And so that people fear the change because they feel like they're losing their history, they're losing their who they are, who they were. So change is something for us to really reflect on. What do we see around us that's changing, or we're perceiving that it's changing? And this makes us uneasy or uncomfortable. This plant, this flower that blooms, it goes with the cycles of nature. I haven't directly communicated with all the plants personally, but I do not sense any fear. They definitely go with the flow. They go with the season. They go with the timing. And like we've seen, these plants they're amazing at what they can do, where they can grow. They can grow in places where you think there would be no possibility. And it's done with trust and fearlessness. And not even courage. I mean, that's the dichotomy, the fear and the courage thing. Like, not even courage. It's just being. It's letting go of the old. In the winter, letting things fall off of it and clear away. Sort of the appearance of death, but it's just shifting of energy. So as we are coming out of this winter time, coming into spring, what can we allow to come off of us and, decompose, be turned back into soil, back into nutrients, but letting it go. And if there's any type of trigger or charge or fear, or even courage. And we're not saying to not have courage, because that's so helpful, but to relax, be more like, be with nature, be part of nature, because we are nature and we're evolving. Humanity is evolving, and we don't have to push, force, fight anything. And we may not understand it. And we may need to accept that. Really accept, I see something happening that makes me uncomfortable, and I don't understand it. But does that make it wrong? Does that make it, no, we need to keep it the same. We need that to, like stagnate there. And going back to the languages, like if your culture feels that it's losing its traditions or languages, if that's what you love and that feels natural, then do it. Actually take some little action in that. If you love your language, if you love your culture, if you love something that you feel is changing, and you feel like, oh, that shouldn't change, I'm gonna get mad at these people or judge them or put this negative energy out towards it. Stop doing that. And maybe that's a sign for your purpose. Something that you are being called to do in a positive way, in a creative growth way for our own soul. Not to try to change other people or beings, but for our own soul. My soul is being called to this. And I'm thinking of something like, something that some people would say is obsolete and doesn't matter. Or this other parts of the cultures may be saying, we're not going to do this way anymore. We need to change. And if you really love something, then go for it. Because whatever we focus on is what will be for us in our reality. So if you find something that is so important for you, we are literally manifesting our reality. So whenever you feel that fear, those triggers, that I don't want that change, or I don't want to go back to normal, or I want to go back to normal, just first of all, relax, observe. Sometimes change for us, because we hold on so tight to the fear and to the past, getting those fingers, that grip released can be painful, because we are gripping so tightly. If it's feeling painful, see if you can let go, if I can let go. And why do we do this? Because if we trust in this experience, if we trust that we are all one, that we are all connected, that all beings are related, have spirit, have life. If we really trust and believe that, we can let go. And we can watch this flower bloom. We can observe. We can be the flower. We are the flower. We can bloom. We can feel it all. We can experience it all. But this requires, as Reverend Tara has been telling, allowing. Just allow, let go. Let this old stuff come off. Harmonize with nature. Relax. If you have fear or resistance, let that fear and resistance be a flower in itself. Teaching us love. Transmuting, allowing the fear to transmute. Allowing the resistance to transmute into love. Because everything is love. So at this time, just enjoy the beauty of the evolution. And there's a lot of changes happening in lots of different ways, and it also depends on what we focus on. It's interesting, one thing could really bother one person and some other person could not care about that, but this really bothers them, and so just let it go and trust. Trust yourself. Trust the Creator. We are co-creators. And allow ourselves to evolve. It's okay if we don't understand. We may never understand in this lifetime. But it's all in God's hands. It's all in the Creator's hands. So enjoy the experience. Love your experience. And if you don't love it, then allow for the experience to change, because you are the co-creator. We are. So with that, we will go into a rainbow